Hello, Washington Commanders fans, and welcome back to another episode of the Washington Wrap. It's been a minute since our last episode, and I guess I owe you guys an explanation. The whole team here, we all have young kids. We've all started new day jobs in, well, I was going to say 2022, but now we're in 2023. But this season, it's been busy in between drinks, but we're still here. And today, on this episode of the Washington Wrap, which, if you've forgotten, is a 10-minute single issue episodic show. We're going to talk about Ron Rivera because his post-game press conferences have been interesting this year. If you remember, he blew up earlier in the year about who was responsible for Carson Wentz coming to Washington when the ESPN story came out that it was a Dan Snyder pick, and Ron Rivera got up and swore at the reporters in the press room and said no, it was him, and he passionately defended Carson Wentz. Carson Wentz then went on injured reserve very shortly after, and we hadn't really seen him until this week. And now, with a loss to the Cleveland Browns at home yesterday, the Washington Commanders' season is over. They are eliminated from playoff contention. And in the post-game press conference between that 1 p.m. game and the 4 p.m. game where the Packers beat the Vikings that officially ended the Washington Commanders' season, Ron Rivera... probably not his best ever press conference because he clearly didn't understand the ramifications of the game. I'm assuming everyone watching this has seen the clip because the clip, my tweet has had something stupid like 3 million views in less than 24 hours, which is ridiculous. But let's play it right now just in case you've missed it, and then we're going to talk about it because, oh boy, it's a doozy.
To clarify, you said you would talk about quarterback next week. If you guys are eliminated today by what happens at 4 o'clock, is Sam Howell in consideration?
We can be eliminated.
Yeah, if the Packers beat the Vikings, then you guys are eliminated.
All right, so let's start that 10-minute countdown clock because that is the nature of the Washington Wrap, and bring in my co-host Felix Trammell. And Felix, first things first, how the hell does a modern NFL coach not know the full playoff ramifications going into what is a must-win game? Did he not realize it was a must-win game? It sort of blows the mind. So your first reactions to his comments, because that was crazy.
I was sitting in the press conference just tweeting out what was going on, and when the question was asked and he didn't say anything, I looked up and it's almost like he was dumbfounded by the question or taken back, like, why? How dare you ask me this? Because I don't think he honestly processed that they could be eliminated.
Yeah.
And I think the key word of what you asked me was modern. And I don't think that was even a thought in his mind that they could be eliminated. And I think that alone sums up Coach Rivera. I think it was just a lack of awareness of this is a possibility. Like, okay, we always want to plan for the good and plan, have pleasant thoughts and good thoughts, but that was a very possible outcome yesterday.
Yeah.
The other teams had very favorable matchups. Like, we had a couple weeks of good blessings from other teams, and that ran out. And so it just is, I don't want to say aloof, but it came across as aloof. Like what's going on? But it was always been with Coach Rivera, this kind of, how dare you ask me that question? Or why ask me that question? Like it's even matters. And obviously it mattered because the Packers went out and took care of business in the 4 o'clock window. So it just came across as very aloof and nonchalant and almost arrogant that he didn't know and it was shocked by the question.
Yeah. So there's a theory kicking around, and I'd give a hat tip to our buddy Michael Phillips from Richmond.com and the Richmond Times-Dispatch, because I was texting him about this, that the official playoff scenarios released by the NFL, so not the ones that the media did, like, Fox, CBS, all the networks that cover the NFL did their own, but the ones released officially by the NFL communications team only had teams that could clinch. It didn't have elimination scenarios. It only had, the Giants can clinch with X, the Commanders can clinch with Y. So there's a theory that maybe he read those and didn't realize that, they could also be eliminated this week. But that's still unacceptable and really inexcusable. The thing that concerns me the most about this is if he didn't realize that the Commanders' season was literally on the line, how did that impact the other decisions that went into his preparation for this game? So I look at guys like Cameron Curl, Benjamin St. Juste, who practiced during the week but then sat out the last practices. Like, if they played, what would that result have been? Like, were they held out just for precaution reasons, or could they genuinely not go? Like, if this was a true season on the line game, which it was, and Ron Rivera coached it as such, would they have played? Questions like that are why this is such a big deal. Like, we're not making fun of him like, I had old man, how do you not know what we sitting at home know? It's not about that. It's about the full diaspora of decisions that go into preparing for an NFL must-win, win or go home game, essentially. Really crazy. And the other thing, of course, and the elephant in the room is the quarterback decision going to Carson Wentz. I think we all saw that coming. We understood the decision, but did Ron Rivera really have his full conviction behind that decision, given what he apparently didn't know? So your thoughts on, this whole saga from that point of view?
I didn't process it like that, but that's a very good point because it was a lot of us were taken back. We saw that St. Juice played last week, and we were assuming, okay, with treatment and stuff, he would play again this week. And then it was shocking to see that he wasn't there, and we didn't hear of any setbacks. And Cameron Curl was close last week.
Yeah.
So you would think, okay, this is a must-win game. You need him out there, and he wasn't out there as well. So you're essentially going out there without him, without Curl, without St. Juice. Holcomb's been lost for the season. People forget about that. So Boston was out there. Now you're on your third middle linebacker next to Davis. Then you get Chase back, which is great, but then you lose Jonathan Allen. So the injuries on the
hopefully
defense.
Not for long. We don't know yet about Jonathan Allen, but yeah.
I mean,
the point remains.
The point remains is if stuff was on the line, and if they were close enough to playing, they should have played. Now, I'm not saying it's going to change the outcome of the game, but it shows it wasn't the urgency, which goes to the quarterback change, which we both agreed should have happened. I've been on the camp that it should have happened after the bye week. Yeah. But like, if it's the urgency and Wentz came out terrible like he did, he looks like a rookie scared for his life in that game.
Yeah.
He should have been pulled. Yeah. If this was season on the line, he should have been pulled.
I was shocked he came out to start the second half.
It made sense. It made sense to do it, but when you saw how bad it was going, you needed to change it up. And he didn't change it. And I can get, okay, I'm going to try to give him a full game to see if he gets it. And I get a little bit of what he said, that drive before the half when they had the 11-minute drive and they scored a touchdown. You're like, okay,
plays, 96 yards.
We have the lead. We have the lead at the half.
Yeah.
It makes sense. But then you see him come out, bam, bam. You got to make the choice. You got to make the change because the season's on the line. And I don't think he ever processed that the season was on the line.
Yeah. And, in a normal season, and we'll get to this in a second. In fact, let's get to it now. Ron Rivera, after a game like that, after a season like this, he's going to have another non-winning season unless they beat Dallas, who are playing to win the division next week. So that's going to be a very tough ask. At best, we can finish 500, 8-1. In normal circumstances, he would very much be on the hot seat. Now, Ron Rivera, great guy. Like, the players love him. I love him. Really, really good man. But you have to wonder at this point, has the NFL passed him? Too many times this season we've seen strange clock management, weird decisions, the wrong play calls. Now, play calls are to his coordinators, obviously, but he's handpicked these coordinators and backed them every step of the way, so the buck stops with him. Of course, Dan Snyder is selling the team. All the reports and indications are that that's still in track, that things are going to happen in February and March and maybe April. I know the NFL wants to get this sorted out by the league meeting in March, but that's going to be very, very difficult given the timing. But one thing's for certain, if Dan Snyder's going to sell the team, and it sounds like he's checked out because multiple people, including you, I think, said that he wasn't at the game yesterday, which is notable. He's not going to pay out contracts for firing coaches. Like, this is just not going to happen. Why would he pay money out of his own pocket when he's leaving town? So Ron Rivera, for the moment, safe, but should he be? Because that's a, you know, I hate saying it because I've been a staunch supporter of him, but given the track record and the combination that apparently he has this lack of preparation, and even if this was just one mistake, it's a crucial mistake at a crucial time of year that potentially could have cost the Commanders their entire season.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, and I've been in the boat with you. Rivera is a very good guy, and he actually got from where he started to where he was. He did a good job.
Yeah.
Now it's time for someone to take that next step, and I don't think Rivera can take the next step. And in a normal circumstance, he could have been out the door this morning. Like it's to that level, but we have to look at the other side. Steiner wasn't there yesterday.
Yeah.
He was not there. He was not there yesterday.
And neither was Tanya for the record. Neither was
Tanya Steiner. Neither one of them were there. So, the owners, that's what's going to happen. That sale is pretty much done. I mean, there's no other way of saying it. That sale is pretty much done. It's just the timetable moving forward. But in that sense, they're not going to touch any of that. They're trying to get whatever money they can get in lead. So they're not trying to pay out. Yep. So Coach Rivera knows that. But in a circumstance, at minimum, the offensive coordinator and the offensive staff would need to be gone.
Yeah.
At minimum.
And probably the defensive. Like, if Rivera's staying, the coordinators have to go.
You can justify the defense because the defense played well. I mean, it's still a top 8 defense or a top 6 defense, wherever the stats fall after yesterday. I mean, the defense is there. I think the defense is more of a player issue than a coaching issue, but the offense is just flat out bad. And Heineke's the cult hero. Heineke played bad. If Heineke played anywhere near good, there would have been a thought of a quarterback change, but he played bad. And a lot of it is the system is bad. And it all goes back. If you even go to that 4th and 1, when you run a toss play to Myles Garrett's side, the one dominant superstar they have.
Yeah.
You run a toss play with your essentially your 3rd string running back towards Myles Garrett. It's just common sense. Yeah. So at minimum, the offensive staff should be gone.
Yeah.
And Ron Rivera, in most instances, would be gone with most owners, but we're in a flux situation. So he's going to be there because no one's going to really touch him.
I feel like Washington's been in a flux situation for the last 20 years now. It's exhausting, it's ridiculous, but that's what it is. And our 10 minutes are up. So let's wrap up with some final thoughts, because this week we've got a dead rubber game against our most hated rivals. It's probably, I think you and I both agree that there's no reason to put out Carson Wentz, and there's not much of a reason to put out Taylor Heineke. You may as well put Sam Howell out, but the problem is Sam Howell, we know he's not ready. There's a reason he hasn't played. There's a reason he's been active so often this year, and it's because the kid, he's not ready to start. So real quick, because our 10 minutes are up, do you think Sam Howell plays this week? Do you think it would be the right or the wrong decision for him to play? And how does Ron Rivera move forward for these next 7 days?
Honestly, I wouldn't put Sam Howell out there. The Cowboys are coming in playing for a division, knowing that we're in shambles, are going to try to obliterate us.
Yeah.
Behind that offensive line, I wouldn't want Sam Howell out there. He will get destroyed. He will honestly get destroyed with that offensive coordinator and that offensive line. I wouldn't put him out there. I think you go out there with Taylor Heineke and just say whatever is whatever. You're playing to be here next year. And go with it like that. And you sit Wentz. Make Wentz the 3rd quarterback.
Yeah.
Honestly, Wentz shouldn't play on the field again. I think
send Wentz off to be wherever Derek Carr is hanging out, away from the Raiders.
Away from the Raiders, and you start Heineke, and maybe depending on how the game goes, you let Howell play the second half. But I wouldn't go out. I couldn't come out the gate with that. The Cowboys would blitz him to oblivion, and you don't want him to be like Derek Carr's brother, how shell shocked he got, or Jason Campbell, or any of those guys who got blown up as rookies and they never could be their potential.
Yeah,
especially with play calling.
We saw this with. This is the same thing we had with Haskins. I know we're way over time now, but it's tricky to talk about Haskins because of the tragic circumstances of where he ended up after he left Washington, tragic loss of life. But same thing. Like, we knew when we drafted him, he wasn't ready. He had to sit. Of course, he didn't. Shattered his confidence. You know, he lost fan support instantly, and he was gone within 2 years. So, yeah.
Yes, I wouldn't do it. It's not fair. It's not fair to Sam Howell to put him out there like that.
Yeah,
it's not.
All right, so that is it. That is the Washington wrap. You know, we don't want to be talking about this stuff. We want to be talking about playoff contention and going on a Super Bowl run and all that kind of stuff. But sometimes you got to come on and talk about just the stuff that makes you go WTF, because that was a big WTF moment in the post-game press conference. So thank you for watching. My name's Chad Ryan. I'm your host, obviously. You can find me on Twitter at Chadwico, TWW. My co-host, Felix Trammell. You can find him on Twitter at Blessed Commander. You can find the Washington Wrap everywhere. If you're listening to this as a podcast, you can also find us on YouTube, where you get to see our faces talking, and a little bit of production value goes into this as well. If you're watching on YouTube and you want to listen to the podcast, also possible. Everywhere you get podcasts, you'll find us, including on Spotify. So you can ask your Google or Alexa to play the Washington Wrap, and we will. Thank you for tuning in. I have no idea when we'll be back, probably with some sort of postseason wrap-up in the coming weeks, but keep an eye out on Twitter, and you'll see us when we're back. Thank you so much for watching. Felix, always a pleasure talking Washington football with you. Win, loss, or draw, which we've had one of all this year. And yeah, here's to a better 2023.